Hello, welcome this morning. I just double check my sound situation here. Wait a minute. Okay. All right. So, good morning. A couple of minutes late this morning, but not too bad. Uh, I don't have a topic this morning because I'm waiting for you guys to ask questions. I don't understand hey Tess, hey, I don't understand how people don't have questions. It always amazes me. When I first started learning in my first 3-year retreat, every single teaching that I got, I probably had and I'm not exaggerating, a minimum of 30 questions. Sometimes I had into the 60s of questions. And I would have to spend a lot of time paring down to like the 3 or 4 most important questions to me. So when I ask every week for questions and I mention to the classes, hey, don't you have a question? All of this, like my mind is blown that people aren't asking questions. But anyway, it's like that. Good morning. Can you learn about the Buddhist view of assisted suicide? This week I saw a commercial from Canada advertising it. Oh, and it made me curious. Okay, we'll talk about that. Great. Yay, no question. Very good. All right. So let's begin. So first we begin by just settling in. We want to get the mind and the body in the same place. Normally we're running all over the place. So this is just an attempt to bring the mind into the present moment so we can have some awareness of what we're doing. Ansanda Samgarabshiri Sampamakadati Banishuna Susun Natatankasaso Kataramana Sowade. Omi Chiki Ki Pojane Dusum Sange Klinging Loni and Sanchakun Suntu Seta Sawename Shata Sowade. So we want to start with our bodhicitta motivation. Bodhicitta. Bodhi means awakened or enlightened. Chitta means the mind and heart together. So enlightened mind, heart. What it signifies is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we make this wish with the understanding that the only way to remove suffering once and for all is to remove the cause of suffering, which is fundamental ignorance. And the way to remove the cause of fundamental ignorance is to attain enlightenment. So this is why we try to make this the motivation for any kind of practice or study or even positive act that we do, um, so that we can help to remove the suffering of all other sentient beings. So please try your best to have that as a motivation at the very least. Please think, may this time we spend together this morning benefit not only myself, but all beings as well, or at least others as well. All right. Hi, Eileen. So again, because I know the chat doesn't appear once the video is actually, published. So I want to read this question from Tim. Can you explain a bit about the Buddhist view of assisted suicide? This week I saw a commercial from Canada advertising it, and it made me curious. Okay, so Buddhist view on taking one's own life is that it is extraordinarily negative. So we want to avoid that Of course, there is compassion involved in understanding the suffering that goes behind that act. But in general, it is considered that life, whether it's human life, animal life, what have you, is extremely important and valuable. And we don't want to just throw it away. This very simplistic understanding, but I will expand on that. So, particularly human life, is very difficult to get a human life. It is the result of eons of virtuous action and so forth. Don't want to go too much into that because the focus is really on taking life. So when someone dies by suicide, whether by their own hand or with medical assistance, um, it is a destruction of the body for a problem that is mental and not physical. So I don't know how long ago it was, but at some time in the fairly recent past, I did a talk just on that. Um, and I believe the title is How to Avoid Taking Your Own Life, where I outline these kind of 12 points that I gathered myself to help people not take their own life. As someone who has, yes, so as so Tim says, I should clarify this was specifically medical and intended for terminal patients. Yes, I understand that. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. But it is still the same thing as taking your own life. I don't say these things lightly. Um, Personally, I have suffered from depression and suicidal ideation since the age of 6, and I'm now 60, almost 64. So that's a really long time to live with this kind of mental and emotional suffering. And for terminal patients who are physically, uh, in a great deal of pain, I don't take that lightly, and I don't think anyone should take that lightly. But I believe from the Buddhist point of view, it would still be seen as a negative act, and that the people, even if they're doing so out of great compassion, who aid someone in taking their life, um, receive the karma of killing. It would not be as strong as someone who killed out of anger or hatred, or as someone who, yeah, killed, yeah, out of anger and hatred. So there's like another point to that. So, um, the things from a Buddhist point of view that we have to consider is the law of cause and effect. Okay. And this logic applies also to putting down, in quotes, it means killing one's own pets because we feel out of really out of love, out of kindness, we don't want them to suffer, and we feel by killing them, they won't suffer anymore. But from the Buddhist point of view, that suffering will just continue into the next life. So if we have the karma to have a certain amount of suffering or a certain amount of happiness, um, it doesn't go away when our life ends, right? That suffering will just be carried on into the next life. So if you're talking about a pet, you're really not doing them any favors. You're just pushing that suffering into the next life. So from our teacher's point of view, it's really better to let your pet die a natural death. And this is something that is not at all supported in our society. And you will get pushback from every corner if you decide to do things this way, which is how I decided to do things when my dog passed away a couple of years ago. Uh, I should clarify. And then Tess says, if treatment is stopped for a condition where there is no cure, thoughts. Okay. So I'm glad for these questions because you can see that there are very subtle things to consider here, right? Um, I want to try to answer Tim's first question, though, and I don't think that I've answered it yet properly. So, in general, I would say for assisted suicide or physical suffering, although I read recently that someone, a young woman in her like late 20s, um, petitioned in Switzerland or wherever they do this normally in Europe because she was depressed and they are going to help her die. And I just feel like that in particular is really wrong. Um, so, um, if we're suffering physically, from the Buddhist point of view, the better option would be to try to um, lessen that physical pain with drugs, right? Morphine, whatever people give them. And I understand also that sometimes even really good drugs, and a lot of them, don't take away the pain for some people. Okay. Um, but to take the life, it's not going to get rid of the karmic cause that is causing that pain. And so that pain will just continue in the next life. And the issue is like, we might say, well, so what? It continues in the next life. But the thing is, we're human beings now in this life. And so we have an opportunity to practice with that pain, to use that pain to uh, walk further along the path, right? We have an opportunity to use that pain to develop compassion. You know, there's all kinds of things that we can do with that pain, right? That we can't do if we're dead. And we don't know what our next life will be. Maybe our next life is as an animal, in which case we can't do anything with that pain. We're just born in pain, the pain that's like sort of coming over from the previous life, and there's nothing we can do with it. So it's much better to um, not shorten one's life or ask others to help us shorten our life, okay? Because we are suffering physically and or mentally. Um, the body and the mind are two different things. Yeah. The uh, as I said, sort of, when I was talking to my teacher about this, and he said, well, the problem is in the mind. Why punish the poor body because the mind has a problem? I think it's a really good point. Um, uh, I think that it's certainly understandable that people do that and want to do that. I really get it. But from the Buddhist point of view, it is considered negative to do that. Um, for example, like a couple weeks ago, I was in the hospital and I had gallstone stuck in a bile duct and pancreatitis, which is like inflammation of the pancreas. And it hurt so much. I mean, so much that like I couldn't even cry. The pain was too great. Like it was amazing amount of pain. And, I just remembered like there's a realm called the Hungry Ghost realm where the beings there suffer a great deal from pain, like in their stomach, and they suffer, their main suffering is extreme hunger and thirst. And the way their bodies are, they have like these massive, stomachs, and they say grass-like limbs, and it's really hard for them to get around. And, kind of as this pain was um, as I was experiencing this great pain, I was thinking about them. And I was thinking, like, they have it worse, you know? I mean, I was kind of a little bit joking too, just like holding into my stomach and going, pray just have it. They're called pray just have it worse, pray just have it worse, pray just have it worse. And trying to use that pain to generate compassion for others, right? Um, and being in the hospital is like a super way to do that. It's a very convenient and obvious way to do this kind of practice because everybody in the hospital is suffering, you know. Even people who are there to have a baby they're still suffering from pain, suffering from, anxiety and all kinds of things, right? So it's a good opportunity to practice giving and receiving, receiving their suffering, giving them happiness, giving them health, giving them a pain-free body, in return. Um, so Tess asks if treatment stopped for a condition where there's no cure. So that question gets onto the borderline, right? That gets into that liminal space where um, can you say that that's killing to withhold treatment? Do you want to be in a situation where um, you're on life support for a very long time? I don't know. You know, I don't know. Um, my own teacher, when I asked him about this, said that, um, was wondering like what to put in my advance directive and this kind of stuff. And he was saying, well, you should do everything you can to stay alive, as long as possible. And for me, I was really shocked, because there's this, very prevalent teaching on impermanence and letting go and all that stuff, right? So that's where I was putting that. Uh, Also, when my mother died, um, she had, sort of signed her initials in this very kind of cursory way to, end of life care, right? That she didn't want to be on prolonged life support. And I believe that she never wanted to be on life support to begin with. But there was some surgeon who I guess wanted a new yacht or whatever, and he advised her to get this very serious and invasive surgery. He gave her two choices of doing like an endoscopy to take uh, what do you call it? I forgot what you call it, like a test of the tissue in her lungs to see if there was was a problem, or you know, we could collapse the lung and open you up, and so she ended up on life support, and um, and so at some point we had to make a decision. So there's 10 kids in my family, and there were two of those kids who had been designated like healthcare power of attorney. And so there were, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 of us in this really small room because we're talking about the kids and their spouses. Um, and the doctor walked in waving a piece of paper in our face saying that we had to make a decision about taking her off life support like that. I could do it without you, but I'd rather have because she had made these initials, okay? And I thought, as I thought before, like I had called Reb Shem, like, what should I do? And he was saying, I expected him to say, well, she's old, she's dying, and you have to just let it go. Everything's impermanent, etc. And he said the opposite of that, No, you have to do everything you can to make sure that she's not taken off of life support, which really, really shocked me and was extraordinarily stressful because I was not the one in power. And I had to talk to my siblings and I had to try to convince people. And I ended up losing that argument. And so they decided to take her off life support, um, at a certain day and time. The other issue here is that the doctor was saying she would die around the life support anyway within around 2 weeks. So, from my point of view, why we have to make this decision if she's going to die anyway naturally? But anyway, that I was not the one who prevailed. So there was a day and a time, and took her off life support, and she took a few breaths and died. So I can tell you, at least my experience, it feels like killing your mother. Okay. Um, and it's a horrible feeling, and it's a horrible thing to go through to try to make that decision. So I understand that everybody in this story was doing their very best to do the right thing and that they had her best interest in heart, right? So I don't hold, mm, grudge towards them, but I believe completely and deeply that they made the wrong decision. Uh, Especially since it wasn't a case of her being on life support for years and years, something like that. So I think that, I'm giving you Buddhist point of view according to my own teachers. Okay. There may be other teachers who say other things, but this is what my own teachers have said. Okay. Um, I think to try to answer Tessa's question, if treatment is stopped for a condition where there is no cure, that kind of straddles the line. And I don't know, I don't know the answer to that. I don't even know what Ricochet would say about that. I I imagine my guess, and this is just a guess, my guess is that Ricochet would say, just try to keep them alive, you know, as long as you can. If there's not a cure for it, doesn't mean that they couldn't live a couple more months or even a couple more years just because there's not a cure for it. These kind of things really need to be on a case by case basis. You know, um, even for my dog, he had cancer throughout his body at the end, and everyone assumed that I would kill him. We use this nice word, put him down, put him to sleep. It's killing you. You're going to keep killing them. I'm sorry, you know. And I opted not to. I mean, and I was lucky to be able to do that. That's the other thing. When I say case by case, I was really fortunate. I'm home all the time. I work mostly from home. I could stay with him 24 hours a day, you know, which I did. And a friend of mine had very kindly paid for hospice, dog hospice, in giant freaking quotes, okay, to come here and help me. So I thought that was a great idea and that they were like actual hospice who would teach me how to keep him as comfortable as possible, how to turn him, how to feed him whatever medicines he might still be on, and this kind of thing. No, that was not the case. She may as well have driven in here with a giant needle on top of her car, like an advertisement. All she did was push me to kill my dog. And I told her over and over again, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to take care of him until he dies naturally. Yes, but look at him. Did you just, yes, he's suffering, he's dying. Well, and I said, yeah, I was also there when my dad died, you know. I, I didn't just end it. We did everything we could with hospice, real hospice, to keep him as comfortable as possible until he passed. We didn't speed up the process because, quote unquote, we didn't want him to suffer. Tugu Rinpoche says mostly it's not that we don't want our dog or a cat or whatever to suffer. It's that we don't want to suffer. It's that we don't want to see them suffer. And that hurts us. So we want it to be over. If we look at it clearly, that's really what's at play. And I think he's right. I'm sorry. I think he's right. You know, again, sometimes when I talk about this, people feel guilty. I don't want people to feel guilty. There's so many people who have done that, out of ignorance and love, really. So if you're somebody who has done that, don't feel bad. You did the best that you could with the information you had at the time, as they say, right? You did that out of love, and now you know better, and hopefully you wouldn't do that to another pet that you have. Um, so, and this lady was talking about, oh, he's suffering. You should put him out of his suffering. And I said, I'm suffering. I'm suffering. I'm suffering my whole life from depression and various things. You're going to kill me? I'm so mad at this lady. Anyway, I didn't kill him. I just stayed with him and slept with him and was on the floor with him and did everything I could to make him comfortable. Now, I have good friends who had a dog, who knew my dog. They used to play together and things like that. And they opted to put down their dog. Now, they're not Buddhist, but they're good friends of mine. And they said that their dog was just having seizure after seizure after seizure, and they just couldn't watch it, and they really felt like ending her life was good for her. And I can't fault them for that, and I don't fault them for that, you know? Um, I don't know what I would have done in that situation, quite frankly. I think I would have, kept her alive until she died naturally, but I don't know. And then there's people, who can't stay with their dog all the time, or I don't know. There's every situation is different, and we have to really has to be on a case by case. But in general, to take a life, whether it's animal or human, before their natural time to die is considered killing and is therefore negative. Um, there are um, unclear situations like what Tess raised, right? Just stopping treatment. You know, Personally, I don't want to be on life support at all, you know, which is what a lot of people opt for. And when, I've read from various places that doctors don't want to be on life support. Most doctors and nurses who see what it is to be on life support do not want to be on life support. So it's not necessarily a peaceful and beautiful thing, which the hospital with my mom was very eager to point out how horrible it would be if it was prolonged very long, but they themselves said it wouldn't be very long. Anyway, usually when I talk about my mom dying in that way, I really urge everyone to please, please, for the love of God, be clear about what you want at the end of life. Um, Write paragraphs about it, not just a little initial. Talk to your friends and family about it so people really understand what you believe and what you want, right? So in her case, she did not do that. Um, she just initialed these little paragraphs. And one of was like, I don't want my life unnecessarily prolonged. Use this word prolonged. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean to you personally, prolonged? Because that's a very relative term, right? Does prolonged mean 3 days? 'Cause it's not really that long. It's a couple days. Does it mean 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years? What does prolonged mean to you? If we don't know that, how are we supposed to make a decision, right? So this woman who had put her initials next to like, I don't want to life support you, right? Was the same person who in the Terry Schiavo case was saying, I don't know why they don't just let that Terry Schiavo live. So what is it that you want? What is it that you really believe? We don't know. We can't read your mind. So do yourself and your family a favor, whether you want to be, end your life as soon as possible, or whether you want to prolong your life as long as possible and anything in between. Please, please, for their sake, be very clear. So they're not the ones who ultimately have to make the decision for you. You've made a decision, you've made it really clear what you want, and it's up to your loved ones to enact that. Okay? I mean, it's just, and as for pets, our whole society is like so geared toward just like killing them as soon as possible that people will fight you. Like this woman who was supposedly hospice was fighting with me about it. It was insane. And then your vet will also, I told my vet from the start, I was like, I'm just letting you know right now, I'm not putting this dog down. So like get ready for that when the time comes that we're still together, you know? Um, and they're not happy about that, you know, because from their point of view, dog is suffering unnecessarily. Well, like I said, if we just killed everybody who's suffering, how many people and animals would be left on this earth? You know, I wouldn't be here anymore. I know there's a lot of people who wouldn't be here anymore. So that's not a marker. It's not a measure for whether a life is worth living or not. Suffering is not a measure of that. And people talk about quality of life. Well, does this dog or cat have any quality of life? And they have life, and they want life, and everyone b- feels their own life is precious. So I don't know what else to say. I hope that it was clear in this talk. I feel like there's a lot of depth missing, but we don't have that much time to cover it. But anyway, that's the way our teachers feel about humans and animals, um, that it is killing. As far as these more liminal kind of questions, I don't know. I don't know what they would say. I can only guess. And I would always, if I was gonna fault, err on the side of caution, this kind of phrase, I would say err on the side of life. If you're gonna make a decision, err on the side of life. You know, I mean, one of the best things I feel, one of my like favorite things about Buddhism is that we don't push our views onto others. You know, so it's not an evangelical kind of belief system, and people can make their own choices about what they want to do with their life, with the lives of their pets and so forth. But I mean, if you think about like having a dog, and a dog is in a lot of pain, so you decide to kill the dog rather than let the dog live, until their natural end of their life. Think about that if it was a child, your child, you know? Oh, my child's in so much pain, you know? You would never, never. So, yeah. All right. So that is that. Let's do some meditation, okay? Get a glass of water, excuse me. Okay. So let's begin with mindfulness of breathing practice. So we just want to take the posture. If you're sitting on a bed or on the floor, a cushion, just cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. If you're sitting on a chair, you want your feet flat on the floor in front of you. All the other instructions are the same. Hands can be palms down on your knees, your legs, palms resting one on top of the other like that in your lap, or with your fingers touching like that on your in your lap, whatever's most comfortable for you. Arms are relaxed, back is straight, Back of the neck is also straight. Chin tucked in a little bit. Shoulders should be back a bit. So just rolling back like that. Tongue resting on the roof of the mouth. Breathing through the nose. Eyes partially open, looking down in front of you a few feet. That is the posture. Now take a moment to notice the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. So you're focusing at that towards the tip of the nose. Okay. So the goal of this meditation is to do our best to maintain continuous awareness of the breath, of that sensation of the breath, letting the thoughts come and go naturally. If we get distracted, just bring the mind back to the breath. It's as simple as that. This is the practice of noticing, becoming familiar with what the mind is like in a state of awareness, becoming familiar with how the mind is in a state of distraction, and becoming more skillful at bringing the mind from distraction to awareness. Okay? So start by having the posture, bringing awareness to the breath. We're allowing the thoughts to come and go as they will without getting distracted. When we find ourselves distracted, as soon as we notice that, simply bring the mind back to the breath. Oh, please begin that now. Now, please begin to count the breaths, counting either every in breath or every out breath for a total of 10 complete breaths. Counting is a tool that helps us realize more quickly if we've gotten distracted because we will have lost count. So let's say you start counting and then your mind just goes running off into some big storyline. As soon as you realize that, oh, I was supposed to be, I don't even know where I am in this 1 to 10. So it's fine, no big deal. Just bring the mind back, start again at 1. You get to 10 without getting distracted. Just go back to 1, start again at 1. Okay? Oh, please begin that now. If you are feeling very speedy, way to correct that to bring the energy back to more of a state of calm, then you can close your eyes, make your body a little warmer, make the room a little darker. This can really help to just calm down. Then before you fall asleep, you can open your eyes again and just back to normal. On the other hand, you're feeling really dull and kind of sleepy, and you want to do the opposite. Open your eyes really wide, look up, look into the sky or into a lamp, something like that to kind of wake up your eyes, make your body cooler. And then you want to take this posture with your hands because it's kind of more straight up. Yeah. Make sure your posture is straight. This will really help. For the other, when you're feeling speedy, then having your hands in this posture on your just palms down on your legs is more helpful. So you to just watch where you're at as you go through the meditation and make adjustments as necessary. So please continue. All right. So now we can end the meditation. Does anyone have any questions about the meditation? All right. Then we will go into the closing prayers. You are welcome to join or not as you wish. I will share them, but you can download them in the description below. There is a link for that. I think on YouTube, we're just gonna do them in English until I feel differently, I guess. So let's see how it goes. Let me share the screen with you. Here we go. We begin with long life prayers for our teachers. Dalai Lama, and Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, below that, Palmo Rybicki, and then like all the teachers. Okay. In the celestial realm, encircled by snow peaks, you are the source of every happiness and benefit. Tenzin Gyatso Avalokiteshvara himself, may your lotus feet remain firm for 100 eons. Om Swasti, in the vast expanse of your fearless wisdom, shine the 100,000 cooling light rays of your all-pervading great love, dispelling the anguish of beings in this degenerate age. O supreme jewel of space, region of Buddhism Bodhisattvas, remain with us continuously, we pray. Om Swasti, through dependent causation and the blessings of the infinity of long-lived Hades, may Pema Wangyal, prophesied magical emanation of the Talcum Sagel, be firm in body, speech, and mind like the king of the sounding drum, Amitabha, and may the great waves of his wishes for the teachings and beings spread out to their ultimate extent. We pray for the good health of the lamas. We pray for their precious lives to be long. We pray for their activities to spread and increase. May we be blessed never to part from them. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail to grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Ever absorbed in the display of divine forms in primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception in the state of divinities, mantras, and dharmakaya, may I, inseparable from the practice of the profound and secret Kriya Yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of one taste. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupamaya Vajra Sattva Tenopa Tishtadrito Me Bhava Sudokayo Me Bhava Subokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Soasiti Me Prayatsa Sawakama Sutsa Me Chitam Shri Yang Kuru Aha, aha, ho, bhagavan, savatata gata vajramame mutsa padriba maha samaya sattva. Okay, so I just have a couple of announcements to make. First of all, thank you so much for joining in this morning or for watching the video later. It's always good to have you. We do have guided meditation every Saturday, the same time, 10:30 to 11:30. Second Saturday of the month, we are in person at the Lakewood Public Library and on YouTube. So if you want to see us in person, Lakewood Library, second Saturday of the month. We do a practice called the Buddha Sadhana 3 times a month, depending on the lunar calendar. More than welcome to join us for that. It's really a beautiful practice. You can find, again, links below. Everything's on our website, and so forth. We have new class coming up in May, I believe, June, maybe, um, Women of Wisdom. So look forward to that. I have been I was fostering until I had to go to the hospital, this dog named Ginger, and I'm really looking for a forever family for her. She's very, very sweet, funny and quirky, and just a real cutie. So I just wanted to show you some pictures of her so you can see. She is at the Cuyahoga County Animal Shelter in Valley View. So she's there now, and she's really, look how cuddly she is. And also she's not that skinny anymore because she was kind of skin and bones, and now she's put on some weight. So here she is outside being adventure girl, and here she is being unable to face the day. She thinks she's a lap dog, so she's got to be in your lap because she's a lap dog. So she wants to be in your lap where all the action is. Um, so think about it. If you don't want a dog, maybe you know somebody who wants a dog. Um, I recommend this dog. Her name is Ginger. They call her Ginger Snap, but actually I don't even call her Ginger. I was calling her Gigi. So also, if you have the possibility of making some donations, we would so appreciate it. It's always, always needed. Like the video, share, subscribe, and share with your friends and family, you know, especially sign up for the newsletter because that's where all the action is, okay? Well, you'll be the first to know anything and everything if you sign up for the newsletter. Um, there is a big event happening in upstate New York at Saki Monastery. Um, it was in the last newsletter. I will put it in the one that is coming up also. If you want to know more about that, email us. Our email is on the website and probably also in the description box. I highly recommend you go if at all possible. All right. So again, thank you for joining, and I hope to see you soon. Okay. Bye, everybody.